Hi there, and welcome to Incheon Airport on the western outskirts of Seoul, South Korea. I just landed on a flight from Ho Chi Minh City, and now I'm transiting for the main event of the day, this long-awaited, and frankly, just plain long, business class flight on ASIANA's A350. The reason I say long is because of the unique and exaggerated detour that this flight needs to take to avoid various airspace. For perspective, this flight is 5,500 miles. Or it should be. Singapore to Johannesburg is 5,400 miles. That Johannesburg flight is 10 hours long, easy peasy. My flight today, 15 hours and 5 minutes, made especially difficult with a strong headwind, keeping us below 400 knots for most of the flight. That is a snail's pace. Thankfully, it was an exceptionally comfortable place to be, similar to where I am now, Terminal 1 at Incheon, which opened in 2001 to ease the pressure on nearby Gimpo Airport. Before we head any further, let me introduce myself to any of you that might be new here. My name is Kevin, and I am the Flip Flop Traveler. I'm here to give you honest content about flights, hotels, trains, and cruises. I paid for this trip out of pocket, and as always, the price that I paid is in the description below. ASIANA had no prior knowledge that I'd be filming today, and I wasn't compensated by them for doing so. Everything in this video is my personal opinion based on my own unique experience. The rest, I will let speak for itself. Let's get started. Transiting here in Incheon is a very pleasant task indeed. Over the years, Incheon has either won or ranked highly in just about every award category from every travel company that exists. Personally, I would agree with all of that as it applies to here in Terminal 1. Personally, just personally, I'm not a fan of the much newer Terminal 2. But the amount of crap that I got in comments for saying just that in my Korean Air video, you would think that I was suggesting to outlaw kimchi. Anywho, I think Terminal 1 has just a bit more traditional airport personality and swagger. Terminal 1, along with its satellite, hosts 62 airlines, including all of the Star Alliance and One World Alliance members. Terminal 2 is just for the 7 members of SkyTeam that fly here, along with Jin Air, Korean Air's low-cost carrier. Okay. Last year, Incheon was the 21st busiest airport on Earth, with over 56 million passengers, coming in just behind Las Vegas. Side note, how the hell does Las Vegas put through 57 million passengers a year? Honestly, my brain refuses to compute that. ASIANA has 3 business class lounges in the terminal, East, West, and Central, and today I'm heading to the East. As we head inside, let's talk about ASIANA a bit itself. They were founded in 1988, originally operating as Seoul Airlines. Prior to them starting up, Korean Air had a monopoly, and with the imminent merger on the horizon, it seems like South Korea will be nearly back there pretty soon. I suppose what's old is new again. If you're curious about the merger, I spoke about it in my previous ASIANA trip report, linked above and below. The year after they began service, they had their first international flight to Sendai, and just 1 year after that, they already had 9 747s, 20 767s, and 8 737s. If that's not one of the most rapid expansions of a new airline, I really don't know what is. In 1991, they began 747 Combi service to LAX, and as of 2019, they held a 25% international market share in South Korea, with 20% domestic. The lounge is comfortable, but the food offerings fall a bit short. This particular East Lounge is also accessible to Priority Pass members, but only those flying on Star Alliance flights. So this place does get pretty crowded. At least there are great views of the apron, and the lounge has all of the other amenities that you'd expect, such as small but well-equipped shower rooms and business centers and the like. You're also the owner or largest shareholder of Air Busan and Air Seoul, both of which will also be part of the mega merger deal. If you're a fan of consolidation and impending sky-high airfares, South Korea is your place to be. Currently, ASIANA flies to a total of 60 international destinations with a passenger fleet of 68 aircraft, 2/3 of which is wide-body. Our A350 today is one of 15 in their fleet, though just a couple days ago they announced that they'd be soon transferring 2 of them to Korean Air. Okay, time to head to the gate and get a few views of our 5-year-old A350-900. Here's your friendly reminder to click that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with friends and family. Those are truly the easiest ways, all free for you, to help support the channel. If you'd like to support me further, my Patreon is also linked in the description below. Thanks very much in advance. It is definitely a beautiful bird, but then again, I don't think I've ever seen an A350 that I didn't like. Boarding began just a few minutes behind schedule, but was very orderly, with the general premium boarding call coming after the pre-board groups. If you head down to the description, you'll find my next 5 videos to come out, as well as a link to many other of my business class trip reports. On your way down there, don't forget to subscribe. I release full-length videos every Thursday and Saturday. As we head down the beautiful jet bridge, let's take a look at today's flight stats. I was greeted as I boarded by the purser, who seemed a little bit distracted, and headed to my seat, again for a kilo. I think the more modern and cooler lighting on board the A350 really does help this cabin not look as dreary and mustardy as it does on the 777. The A350s have 7 rows of business class seats in a staggered 1-to-1 configuration for a total of 28 seats in this cabin. There really are no bad seats, besides the fact that if you want a window seat, make sure you get a true window seat in the even-numbered rows. And just like on the 777, 5 kilo will always be reserved for anyone traveling with animals on board. Let's take a look around the seat. If you saw my last video, you may have already noticed that this is the exact same seat as on the 777. I don't mean the same type, I don't mean kinda sorta like the same thing, I mean quite literally the same seat. But I'm not at all complaining. This seat, along with EVAs, are by far the 2 most comfortable staggered 1-to-1 setups that I've ever sat in. The armrests are situated in such a way, and the foot cubby sculpted so that the seat itself is oversized. 22.5 inches wide, that's 1.5 inches more than the usual, and a whopping 21 inches deep, which is, depending on the airline, anywhere from 3 to 8 inches deeper than normal. On a long flight like this one, that under-thigh support is incredible to have. Otherwise, all of the other seat features are the same, such as the sturdy adjustable headrest, the mod cons and connectivity ports, and the cleanliness of it all. I think the only actual difference is the monitor, which is slightly newer here. There's also no overhead bins in the center section, which makes for a very airy feeling in the cabin. Airy feeling despite the fact that there are no overhead air vents, but the cabin is kept generally pretty cool. Pre-departure drinks were offered somewhere along the way, and soon enough we were pushing back, 13 minutes behind schedule. And then that all-important safety video began to play. I do wish that it wasn't such a rainy, dreary day, but I would highly suggest sticking around for some of the views coming up on this flight. Collectively, this may have been one of the top 5 most beautiful flights that I've ever had. Alright, let's get this thing in the air. The spool up, takeoff, and airport stats are coming up next. One question for anyone in the know. On this spool up, is there any particular reason why the roar of the engines was so intense and so abrupt to start? In my experience, the A350 spool ups are normally much more of a crescendo. Okay, while we wait for the first of quite a few meal services to begin, let's take a look at the comfort items on board, which are upgraded compared to my prior regional flight. The pillow is more comfortable and slightly larger, with a properly clean pillowcase. Then there was a really nice and soft duvet, which came in handy later in the flight. We are in East Asia, so of course there are slippers. Though don't let that small open toe fool you. These are still pretty tiny slippers. Unfortunately, the same mediocre headphones as the last flight. And unfortunately, no seat cover. I'd say better headphones and adding a seat cover to the mix are two things that would really elevate the experience on board. The amenity kit was from Anye, which I've never heard of before, but apparently they're German and have been around since 1965, so what do I know? The kit had all of the basics that you would need, no complaints on that front, but the case itself did feel especially cheap. And then just 40 minutes after takeoff, the trolley started rolling down the aisles to begin the first meal service. Here's the full menu for what's on offer today. Note that the red prices next to the wines on offer are my addition to the graphic and are just there to give you an idea of the current retail prices in USD. For this meal, you would need to choose between Western or Korean cuisine, and you do need to stick with your choice as each meal is different and seems like there isn't much flexibility to mix and match. But honestly, everything on both menus was really appealing. On the Western menu, you could choose a main dish of beef tenderloin with truffle, halibut steak and mushroom risotto, or hot and spicy duck bulgogi. Not sure how that's Western, but 3 solid and delicious sounding choices. For me though, I had to pick the Korean menu. There are 3 starters, and they all were served in succession. First up was a zucchini shrimp roll, followed by Napa cabbage wrap with barley rice and young radish, and finally sweet potato porridge, which was outstanding. I'm not ashamed to admit that I was caught trying to literally scrape every drop from inside that bowl. For the main dish, there is no choice. On offer is grilled beef ribs sambap. I always go for either the Korean or the Japanese option on their respective carriers, since beyond the fact that it's delicious, it's just so rare to have such a fresh and relatively light full-set meal on a plane. Everything from the beef to the bean paste to the kimchi and the veg came together beautifully for a delicious meal. As I waited for my 3 desserts, we had our first gorgeous views of the day as we crossed from Inner Mongolia to Mongolia. When I ordered, I didn't realize both desserts listed on the Korean side would be served, and I asked for the more Western option of the 2 on the menu. They didn't take this too well. Didn't understand why. In retrospect, I think it's that they thought that I wanted the cheese plate, and they didn't know if they had enough of them because it was from the Western menu. Anyway, I was happy to have some surprise cheese as well, along with my mugwort red bean paste rice cake and sweet walnut cookie. I think the walnut may have escaped from its cookie. Last up was a trolley with coffee, tea, port, fruit, and dessert. I had the Mont Blanc cake, which was a chestnut cream cake. Well, so much for a fresh and relatively light meal. This was an absolute feast. A very quick look at the bathroom saw a well-stocked and very clean space. Though I do need to wonder, who thought we wouldn't be able to figure out where the trash bin was? Checking out the entertainment, the system itself was great and very responsive via the touchscreen or the remote. The movie selection on offer is decent for a Korean airline, which always seemed to have a limited selection. There were around 120 movie options, around a third of them being Korean. Flying over Kazakhstan, approaching the Caspian Sea, the sun began to set. And with that, let's talk about service a bit. I do think it was generally well-intentioned, but there were a couple of crew who were quite brusque. And I honestly couldn't tell you if it was a language limitation or just how they were. One example was when I had my phone attached to the window, something that is allowed on ASIANA as I learned from my prior flight. I was just bluntly told in passing, quote, "If you break the window, it's going to be a problem." Okay, yeah, I can see how a broken window on an airplane might be a problem. Thanks. The one thing I didn't appreciate though were the games that they were playing with the window shades. This was a day flight, taking off at lunch and landing at dinner. My long flight game plan tells me to stay awake as much as possible and then crash in London. But from just a few hours into the flight, about 4 o'clock Seoul time, they wanted all of the window shades shut, and they weren't afraid to repeatedly and bluntly tell you to shut them. For a flight at this time, that's a ridiculous policy. But it was much more so just the way they kept saying it. Not just to me, but to many other passengers as well, who simply didn't want to sleep at 4 o'clock. I don't know, it was just lacking the poise that I've grown used to and have enjoyed on ASIANA in the past. Around halfway through the flight, the second meal service began. On the menu, labeled as a snack, in reality a very full meal. We started out with a caprese salad, and then there was a choice between 3 main courses: Korean porridge with beef and barley, salmon steak, or masaman curry with roasted tandoori chicken. Well, there's an easy decision. Masaman, please. My god, this was good. I think it's rare that airplane food feels homey in a good way. But this ticked every comfort food box on the list. Great flavor, just spicy enough, tender chicken. That was followed up with a strawberry panna cotta. And that was followed up with this incredible sunset. Enjoy this bit of a montage and take note of the glowing land under the clouds. If nothing else, make sure you watch some incredible engine shots coming up. That sunset got me in the mood for a quick power nap, so I made my bed into full flat mode. The bed itself is very generous in its hip and shoulder width, but a bit less so in the foot cubby width. When we were over Frankfurt, the crew proactively offered items from the refreshments menu, which included sandwiches, fruit, ramen, beef bone soup noodles, gimbap, and chips. I went for the ramen and the gimbap, which hit a spot that I really didn't know needed to be hit at this point. We were given a few exercises to do, which helped my neck since it was glued out the window on approach into London. I do think this is the most beautiful approach that I've ever had into Heathrow. Every London landmark that you could possibly name is going to come into clear and close-up view. So please enjoy this extended approach clip, which I myself have watched around a dozen times at this point. And welcome to London. Originally, I was meant to have a quick overnight in the city and then continue the next morning to New York on Swiss. But a few months before departure, ASIANA retimed this flight. And by retimed, I mean made it 24 hours earlier. So I had 2 leisurely nights in London before continuing this journey from London City Airport on a rocket ship. Overall, it was a fantastic flight. The service could have been warmer, but I'd say that the food, the seat, and the views more than made up for that in my book, and those were the 3 things that left the lasting impression. I really do hope that you enjoyed this trip report today. If you did, please be sure to click that like button and subscribe for 2 new videos each week. For a bit of a change of scenery, I'll see you next time from the stunning Jumeirah Muscat Bay. Oh, and as always, thanks for watching until the end.